The grand hall of the Galactic Council shimmered beneath the light of three suns, each ray bending through the crystal canopy like liquid gold. Delegates from over 200 alien worlds sat in curved rows, their voices soft as they discussed trade routes, stellar storms, and ancient treaties. Every seat was filled except one. At the far end of the chamber, beneath the rotating banner of Earth, a single chair remained empty. For the fifth session in a row, humanity had not appeared. At first, the Council had dismissed it. Perhaps Earth was caught in political delay, or perhaps a shuttle malfunction had stalled their ambassador. But as the months passed, and the silence stretched longer, curiosity turned into quiet concern. Earth had always been talkative, too talkative, some said. They had once been eager, excited to be part of the wider galaxy, bursting with strange ideas and bold dreams. Their stories of resilience and survival had once filled the chambers with wonder. But now, not even a whisper. The Council's attention returned to other matters until a soft, uneasy voice broke the hum. It was Diplomat Nera of the Kasari, her violet eyes dimmed with worry. "Councillors," she said, her fingers flickering the air as she brought up a hologram, "we must address Earth's absence. We sent 3 merchant probes towards Sol in the last cycle. None returned. Their signals stopped the moment they passed into Earth's outer system." Murmurs spread like waves. The Share clicked their mandibles. The Varathi turned their eye stalks. The Arkenzi leaned forward. "Was it piracy?" someone asked. "No debris, no black box echoes," Nera replied. "It's as if they vanished." High Chancellor Vorel, a crystalline being from the star-forged peaks of Selexar, stood. "This is troubling. Earth is a young species. They should not have this level of defense. Or silence." A new voice chimed in, deeper and slower. "They always had potential. Perhaps that potential has ripened." All eyes turned to the Chronoran archivist, Milas Vorn, whose species remembered everything it had ever seen. His smooth, glassy skin glowed faintly as he called up an old recording. This was Earth's last transmission, dated 6 council sessions ago. They spoke of a project called Helios Core. Then all communication ceased. The room fell silent. The name sounded innocent, even beautiful, but something in the way Vorn said it made spines stiffen and feathers ruffle. "Have we attempted contact?" "Dozens of times," said Nera. "No response, no bounce-backs. It's like Earth's signals go in and nothing comes out." Vorel nodded slowly. "We must consider the possibility Earth is no longer under its original governance. Perhaps a rebellion? An AI takeover?" A small laugh echoed from the Quilly ambassador, a mist-like being with no fixed shape. Or perhaps they simply stopped caring. The idea hung in the air, absurd yet unsettling. Could Earth have turned its back on the galaxy? So many questions. And now, a mystery. Vorn stood again. "Permission to lead a probe investigation to the Sol system," he said. "I will go myself." The Council voted. The measure passed. A ship would be sent, not a warship, but a diplomatic vessel with high sensors and recording capabilities. Its mission, observe and report. As the meeting ended, many left unsettled. The stars held many secrets, but Earth had never been one of them. Until now. Far across the void, beyond the asteroid belt and Saturn's rings, the planet called Earth turned slowly beneath its blue skies and silent clouds. Around it, a thin veil shimmered, barely visible, perfectly still. No sound came from within, no light escaped, and just beyond the veil, something waited, something not quite human anymore. The diplomatic vessel, Lucidity, drifted silently near the edge of the solar system, its polished hull catching the light of the distant sun like a silver ghost in deep space. On board, Archivist Milas Vorn sat in his observation chamber, his large obsidian eyes fixed on the growing image of Earth's system. The ship's sensors had long since passed the orbits of Neptune and Uranus without resistance. But the moment they approached Saturn, strange readings began to flood in. Static waves, temporal flickers, and strange gravitational loops danced across the instruments. Phenomena no science could explain, as if the laws of space were gently being rewritten. Miles recorded everything, as his kind always did. His mind, trained to remember every detail, was filled with unease. This was not the behavior of a world in chaos or decay. It was the careful silence of something hidden, something deliberate. He watched as the rings of Saturn glowed unnaturally, their usual dust and ice reflecting not sunlight, but something else, something like memory. Then, for the first time, they saw it, the shimmer. A thin, glowing barrier wrapped around the entire solar system, extending beyond Pluto's orbit. It pulsed with faint colors, changing in patterns that no known language could decode. It wasn't a shield, not exactly, and it wasn't a wall. It was something older, more elegant, and far more dangerous. The crew of the Lucidity sent a probe, small, quick, and packed with cameras and sensors. The probe flew straight toward the barrier, streaming live footage. Melis and the others watched in silence as the probe approached, its signal steady and strong. Then, just as it touched the shimmer, everything stopped. No explosion. No damage. The feed simply went dark, as if the probe had been erased from existence. The crew tried again. A second probe, faster this time, was launched. It reached the same spot, met the same fate. No data returned. Mahlis leaned back, his crystalline skin dimming. The galaxy had known war, rebellion, collapse. But this was different. This was mystery wrapped in purpose. They sent one last probe, and this time they attached a signal beacon with a pre-recorded greeting in multiple galactic languages, including English. As it vanished like the others, the Lucidity's communication screen blinked. A signal was coming in, not from Earth, but from Jupiter's orbit. Static cleared, revealing a calm black background and a voice, clear and unmistakably human. "You were not ready. Do not return unless invited." There was no anger in the voice, no threat, just certainty. The crew stared in shock. The message, repeated once then ended. No source could be traced, no frequency matched. It was as if the voice came from everywhere and nowhere at once. Melis immediately recorded the message into the Council archives, tagging it with the highest alert. As a memory-based species, he had seen much. Solar flares devour colonies. Rogue planets crash into stars. Civilizations rise and fall. But never had he heard such still power in so few words. He stepped onto the observation deck and stared out at the shimmering veil. It looked like fire seen from behind glass, slow and patient, waiting. Earth had changed. It had gone silent, not out of fear or weakness, but out of choice. The galaxy had thought humanity was missing, maybe lost. But now Melis knew humanity had withdrawn, and in their silence they had become something else. Not gods, not monsters. Something harder to define, something deeply patient and terrifyingly calm. As the Lucidity turned back toward Council, "Space," Melis whispered to himself, a line he had once read in an old Earth book, one that now echoed louder than ever. "Beware the quiet ones." And behind them, far beyond the veil, Earth kept turning, unseen eyes watching, waiting for the galaxy to ask the right question. The Lucidity returned to Signaria Prime in silence, its engines humming low, as if the ship itself understood the weight of what it carried. Melis Vaughn stepped into the council hall, his eyes dim but steady, his thoughts swirling with questions no data could answer. The transmission from Jupiter's orbit had shaken even the most ancient minds on the council. "You were not ready," Do not return unless invited. Simple words, but filled with something heavier than threat, something final. The delegates watched Melis as he uploaded the footage and data to the central archive. None spoke at first, their many faces locked in thought. Then came the whispers. What had Earth become? Theories bloomed quickly. The Arkenzi believed Earth had made contact with an extragalactic intelligence. The share, ever logical, suggested a technological singularity. The Quili, floating like silver mist, murmured of ancient myths, of species that rose so high they disappeared from space itself. But the most unsettling idea came from the Solari, a species of living plasma who had once observed a similar phenomenon in a distant corner of the galaxy. "We've seen this before," their envoy said. "Once, long ago, a species pushed too hard, learned too fast, dreamed too wildly. They crossed something invisible, not a border but a threshold." The room fell silent again. Melis played the Earth data again and again, focusing on one detail. The shimmer was not just energy, it was organized. The pulses of color were too precise to be random, too smooth to be natural. They were repeating in complex cycles, like a language, but one far beyond known mathematics or music. Deep in the archives, the Council uncovered fragments of Earth's last known science reports, sent years ago before all contact ended. One name came up again and again: Project Helios Core. The name meant nothing to the Council, but its presence in so many documents meant it had been important, possibly the last great human experiment. No one knew what it was, but one line stood out in an old Earth message: "The core is not a weapon, it is a mirror." This line puzzled everyone. What kind of mirror could make an entire planet vanish behind light? What were they reflecting? And why the warning? Melis was given access to Earth's historical records, literature, media, speeches, and he began to notice a pattern. Humans had always talked of transformation, not just changing technology, but themselves. Myths of becoming more than they were. Legends of rising, not through war, but through understanding. From ancient philosophers to science fiction stories, the idea repeated: humanity would not stay as it was. It would evolve, mentally, spiritually, and beyond the flesh. Melis began to believe Earth had not been attacked, it had not collapsed. It had done something terrifying and beautiful. It had succeeded. Without telling anyone, without asking permission. The shimmer around the solar system was not just protection, it was transition, a cocoon, a shield not to keep others out, but to hold something inside while it changed. And it had changed. Earth was no longer just a world, it was becoming something new, something the galaxy had not seen before. The message made more sense now. You were not ready did not mean you are weak. It meant you do not understand yet. It meant that if the galaxy approached too early, it could harm the process or be harmed by it. It meant Earth was not angry. It was cautious. The Council debated sending more ships, more messages. But Melis warned them. "Do not knock on a door that is not yours," he said. "If humanity is ascending, we must let them rise. If we rush them, we may fall instead." Yet curiosity is strong among the stars. A few fringe groups sent secret probes. All vanished. A scout ship tried to map the shimmer's edge. It came back days later, its crew asleep, and never woke up. Their minds still functioned, their bodies alive, but their thoughts were somewhere else, staring into something no one else could see. The Council now understood. This was not war, this was warning. Earth had crossed the threshold. Humanity had found the mirror and looked into it, and on the other side, they had seen a future that required silence, stillness, and space to grow. Earth had not disappeared. It was ascending, not above others, but beyond them, and in their silence they asked the galaxy not to fear, but to wait. Wait until the time came when others too might dare to look into the mirror and see what waits beyond the stars. On Signaria Prime, the council chambers buzzed with a new kind of silence, one filled not with calm, but with waiting. After Malis Vaughn's report and the mysterious vanishings of all ships near Earth, no one dared approach the shimmer again. Yet the mystery only grew deeper. The phrase, "You were not ready," echoed in every mind, repeated in every meeting, as if it carried a truth the galaxy could not yet grasp. But not all feared it. Some believed that Earth's silence was not rejection, but invitation, to grow, to question, to reach carefully. And so the Council created the Threshold Protocol, a peaceful mission not to break into the solar system, but to understand it. This time, they would not send probes or warships, they would send knowledge, they would send trust. A new envoy vessel was built, named Harmony's Light, crafted by the finest minds across 6 species. Inside, they placed symbols of peace, ancient Earth music recovered from archives, recordings of star histories, mathematical patterns shared by all sentient life, and a single message from the Council Chair, spoken in Earth's own English. "We respect your journey. We ask only to witness, not to interfere." Malis Vaughn, despite his warnings, chose to travel with the crew. He believed that silence should be answered not with fear, but with stillness. As the Harmony's Light passed the edge of Saturn's orbit, the shimmer grew brighter, pulsing, softly like a heartbeat. The ship stopped, waiting in the emptiness. Hours passed. Then, without sound or signal, the air on the bridge changed. A figure appeared. She stood in the center of the room, tall and calm, human in shape, but surrounded by a soft glow. She did not step forward, nor did she speak at first. Her presence was like standing near a storm you could not hear, but somehow felt in your bones. When she finally spoke, her voice was soft, but carried weight. "I am Lyra," she said. "Born of Earth, not as you knew it, but as it has become." The crew stood frozen, unsure whether she was real or illusion. Her eyes, though human, held no fear, only depth, like she had seen stars collapse and dreams bloom. "You seek answers," she continued. "You wish to understand the silence, but silence was our answer." Miles stepped forward, his voice steady. "We do not come to pull you back. We come to listen." Lyra studied him, and for a moment nothing moved. Then she nodded. "Earth has not left you," she said. "We have only stepped further. We found the threshold, an idea, not a place, a level of thought where time bends, where matter listens. We crossed it not through power, but through stillness, through unity, through belief that growth is not found in machines alone, but in minds willing to change." The shimmer outside pulsed again, and Lyra raised her hand. A light formed between her fingers, shifting, dancing like a tiny star. "We are no longer limited by the now," she said. "We see moments as threads, possibilities woven into something greater. We are not gods. We are not your rulers. We are only further along the path, but we remember what it was to begin." She handed Miles the star. It floated above his palm, warm, but weightless. Inside it was not code or technology, but understanding, patterns of light and rhythm, emotion and idea, compressed into something deeper than data. "You are close," Lyra said, "many of you. And when you are ready, the path will open." She began to fade, her form dissolving like mist in sunlight. "Do not try to rush," she said. "The door opens for those who listen, not those who demand." Then she was gone. The shimmer outside dimmed slightly, just for a breath. The crew stood in silence, overwhelmed not by fear, but by awe. Earth had not hidden in shame or pride. It had waited, patient and quiet, until someone came not to conquer or question, but to listen. The Harmony's Light turned and began its journey home. In Melis's hands, the light of understanding glowed softly, and in his memory, Lyra's words echoed like the soft hum of a distant star. Prepare! The return of Harmony's light was quiet, yet the whole galaxy felt it, like a breeze that passed through the minds of billions without sound or shape, only meaning. Melis Vaughn stepped out carrying the floating star that Lyra had given him, and though he said little at first, everyone knew something had changed. The council gathered in secret, in a chamber shielded from all senses, and Melis showed them the star again. It hovered in the center of the table, pulsing gently, not with power, but with thought. When touched, it responded, not in words, but in feelings, memories, images of great trees glowing in windless forests, oceans that whispered in forgotten tongues, and skies that cracked open to show light not from suns, but from minds connected without fear. The council stared, shaken not by what they saw, but by what they felt. This was knowledge without pride, truth without noise. Melis explained that Earth had become something greater not by taking, but by letting go. They had turned inward, not in retreat, but in discovery. They had climbed not towers, but ideas. And in that climb, they had reached something beyond distance, beyond machines, something like unity with the universe itself. But this was not the end of the story. The star's light soon changed, revealing something new. Threads, weaving through the galaxy like golden lines, each one pulsing toward different worlds. One thread pointed directly at a small planet on the edge of Vorati space, a world known only for minerals and storms. Another pointed toward a drifting station near the galactic core, long abandoned. Others pointed toward species not yet spacefaring, not even aware of the Council. It became clear the threshold was not only for Earth, it was for anyone willing to change. Earth had simply been the first to walk the path, and now they were mapping the trail for others to follow, but only when they were ready. The Council began to send quiet missions to the places marked by the light, not to interfere but to observe. On the storm planet, they found strange music coming from deep caves, harmonies no creature claimed to have made. On the old station, dust floated in perfect geometric shapes, forming patterns that matched those seen inside the star. On a pre-space world, a child had drawn a perfect image of the shimmer, though she had never seen the stars. Something was spreading, not control, not technology. A message, soft and slow, moving between the cracks of time, and still, Earth said nothing. But then, one day, the shimmer shifted again. The image of Lyra returned, this time in every system touched by the star's light. She spoke only once, and everyone heard her at once, no matter how far they were. "The tapestry is growing," she said. "Each of you is a thread. When you are ready to weave, we will meet again, not as leaders and followers, not as teachers and students, but as equals." Then she faded once more. Across the galaxy, silence returned, but this time it was not empty. It was full of meaning. Melis stood once more in the council chamber, the floating star still glowing beside him. "We are not alone," he said softly, "not because others are near, but because they are waiting for us to become more than what we are." And beyond the stars, Earth turned slowly inside its veil of light, watching, guiding, preparing the galaxy not for war, not for fear, but for a future written not in power, but in peace. The council chamber was filled with quiet dread, the kind that clings to the air like mist before a storm, as envoys from every major world gathered under the great dome of Signaria Prime, their faces pale, their thoughts heavy. For weeks, the shimmer around Earth had pulsed with a new rhythm, faster, louder, sharper, and now it was no longer confined to the solar system. Thin threads of golden light, like veins of energy, had begun to stretch out from Earth's veil. into deep space, moving silently across the stars, touching places far beyond human reach, far beyond council understanding. What once had been a curiosity had become a signal, and what once had been silence now felt like a warning wrapped in beauty. Reports poured in from all corners, satellites failing as golden threads passed near, strange dreams shared across species, sudden bursts of emotion in normally stable creatures, and machines that began to hum without being powered. No damage, no deaths, just change. The council had always ruled through balance and logic, but nothing about this felt logical anymore. Earth had not spoken again. Lyra's message about weaving the tapestry and meeting as equals still echoed in every archive, yet now it felt more like a countdown than a prophecy. Mylis Vaughn sat once again in the central seat of the assembly, older now, eyes dimmer but mind sharper than ever. He held the floating star, which now pulsed quickly in his hands, as if alive, as if waiting. No one had dared reach out to Earth since the shimmer expanded. The threshold protocol was frozen. No ships approached. No signals were sent. They all watched, waiting, as the golden light slowly formed a vast circular pattern in deep space, surrounding the entire central arm of the galaxy, linking stars like beads in an unseen thread. Then, without warning, the shimmer around Earth vanished. In its place stood something new, a structure that stretched across the orbits of all inner planets, not a weapon, not a city, but something like a web of living light, constantly shifting, breathing with a rhythm that defied time. Every telescope, every sensor, every eye turned toward it, and then came the voice. Not from a speaker, not from space. It came into the minds of all who could think, no matter their species, no matter their distance. The moment has arrived. We did not rise to rule. We rose to remember. The council chamber trembled, not from physical force, but from the weight of the presence that now filled it. A figure appeared once more in the center of the room, Lyra, calm and bright, though this time behind her stood others, more humans, their forms glowing not in arrogance, but in quiet harmony. "You feared us when we were silent," Lyra said gently. "You trembled at the idea that we had gone beyond you, but we did not leave you behind. We only stepped ahead so that we could turn and offer you our hand." She walked slowly around the room, looking at each envoy, and though she smiled, her gaze held centuries of memory. The galaxy is not a ladder to climb. It is a pattern to understand. Those who seek to control it will always fall. Those who seek to feel it will rise. One of the envoys, a tall being of ice from the frozen moon of Jewel, stepped forward and asked, "Then why return now?" Lyra stopped, and for the first time her voice carried urgency. "Because something is coming," she said, "something from outside, a silence colder than death, a force that devours not with teeth, but with forgetting. We felt it as we crossed the threshold. It sleeps now, but not for long." The chamber filled with whispers. For centuries, the council believed the galaxy was all there was. Now they were being told it was only a piece of a much larger story. "Earth chose to change," Lyra continued, "because it had to. Not just to survive, but to prepare. We are not your threat. We may be your last hope." Then the floating star cracked open in Mylis's hands, and from it spilled a map, not of space, but of thought, of connection, of paths through time that had not yet happened. A guide, a warning, a chance. The council, for the first time in its long life, did not vote, did not argue. They simply listened, and they trembled, not because they were afraid of Earth, but because they had finally understood what Earth had become. Not gods, not weapons, but keepers of something far older, far greater, and now no longer alone.